make this quite quick, and there's a few slides here, and they're nowhere near as interesting or as many pictures as some of the previous presenters, and I apologise in advance. But I've been asked to talk about impacts, collective impacts, and how does that work potentially in a Landcare environment. Now I'm working with Perth NRM, as you may have seen here from the logo. I started with Perth NRM, and I think it was the same day or the day after I had a phone call from Jacqueline saying, would you present at our annual gathering? And I went, oh yeah, okay, I can do that. Not knowing exactly what I was doing in this new role. But I'm the program manager for a collective impact project at Perth NRM. It's part of the funding round that we got through Lotteries West. It also involves our sustainable agricultural team and people like Bonnie Jupp and Tibby in the regen ag space, natural capital accounting, etc. So I'm just one piece, part-time piece, in a much larger project. So let's jump into this because I can know what's going to happen. I'm going to run out of time because I love having a chat. But I just wanted to start by putting this up, and I stole this off Keith Peckin, who will be here later this evening, who's my boss and the CEO at Perth NRM. So purpose and impact management. So we need evidence to know and to demonstrate that we are achieving our purpose and that we are having impact. So that I thought was a great quote, and this is what I'm saying. It's a bit of a dry subject. I'm still getting my head around collective impact, but the essence of it is this set of dot points here on the right hand side, because you can have, and I'm sure all of you working in your different spaces and organisations have probably either been involved in or have experienced this, where you have individual impact, where people are out there doing great things as individuals. You can have this collaborative impact, where we get together as a bit more of a group, we convene around something. But really, the place now, and we see this happening, I wasn't aware that collective impact was a thing, but I've now learnt that it's actually been a framework and a movement for some time around the world, and especially in our social justice and education areas, right? We just need to take hold of this within the landscape, within our land care, within our agriculture systems, because it really, really does fit some of the wicked problems that we're being faced with now, right? So basically, 4 dot points here. Collective impact starts with an effective collaboration. We've heard about that today, so it's already happening. We organise around our stakeholders in those different areas of expertise so that we've got a shared purpose and outcomes. It becomes what we all do collectively, not in addition to what we do. And that's really, really important, because I've heard a couple of times today about how busy we are, how we've all got these huge loads of whatever it is that's happening in our lives, and then to try and take something additional on is really, really challenging. So this is a really important piece around collective impact. So we measure the same things. So you could have, and I was just thinking with Adam's talk there at the end about what's next for row 8, when the funding finishes in 2028, etc. So this is really important because you guys have done a heap of great work. You've probably measured it. You know how many seedlings you've put in, etc., etc. You can share the results you've had. You can track that progress to achieving the impact that you've had to this point in time. That will be one of your key advantages going forward for whatever the group or entity may decide beyond 2028 to be able to continue to do the great work that you're doing. So, and then finally, corporate and government sectors need to be actively participating. They are, but often they quite easily wash their hands or lose interest, especially if it's not in the current political cycle. So we need to have them on board and committed to being on board. So collective impact as an approach. The 3 key questions: what, why and how. Now I'm not going to go through this in any detail. I'm going to put it up there and just say that it's very much achievable and can be addressed under a collective impact framework and approach. This, though, is quite an interesting slide. We've talked a little bit, and I've heard a lot today about some of the great work that's been done, and the slide's really a bit upside down for me anyway, and the way my head works. I actually start down the bottom here. You think about inputs, you think about the funding that we have written up and we've done all the hard yards to obtain. We then look at the activities of the programs or the body of work that we're going to undertake, whether that be the number of planting days, etc., that we need to put in place. We then talk about outputs, so the volume of work that needs to be completed, i.e. the land that's been regenerated, and then outcomes. So this is really quite often what we think, and what I used to think of too, is the impact. But really these are the outcomes. Collective impact goes to the final level up here and says, if you're able to achieve fundamental change by taking a very well considered rationale and a collective approach to that, to an intervention, so to a point where it has a clear change in the particular area of your activity, then that's giving you collective impact. There's another sort of step that goes along this whole theory of change about if we do X and why will it change, or why will that change because ... But that's the crux of collective impact. So 5 conditions to actually go through it. So this is now where you start to think of, what would I do in my space if I was in the Landcare, WA Landcare Network, or within one of the affiliated groups, etc. How would I think about looking at my projects or future projects under a collective impact regime? So the first thing is a common agenda. We need to have an understanding of what it is problem we're trying to solve, and a shared vision for change. So we just had our first workshop around this collective impact program on Wednesday, and we had over 20 odd discrete key stakeholder groups there. And the key outcome of that meeting wasn't about trying to put this framework together on day one of the workshop. The key outcome that we wanted to come away from was, is there a shared vision for change? Do we have a coalition of the willing in this room to make a difference? And yes, there was. So we'll be moving forward with our particular project. The next one is then a shared measurement. So when we come back together, we'll have another 3 workshops in 2024 to begin this collective impact program project. In workshop number 2, we'll start talking about what would a shared measurement look like. Thank you, Carolyn. So that's the next one. Then from there you move into mutually reinforcing activities. So this is the work that's happening on the ground or within your collective impact group. So, there'll be different approaches. That's the nature of working with a diverse group of stakeholders. But if you're working as a coordinated group, you can do it. Continuous communication. This is key, and it's been mentioned more than once today, but it really is the glue that keeps a collective impact program framework together. And the last one's what they call a backbone support or a backbone organisation. Now, apparently many collective impact initiatives don't always start with a backbone organisation because they're a group that's got the time and that energy and the resources to be able to facilitate the collective impact project. I talked about the fact that we're all busy within us in individual groups. So we're fortunate enough that we've got this funding from Lotteries West, and Perth NRM has basically said, yes, we'll put our hands up to be the backbone in organisation, at least for the initial 2 years of this project, and then we'll see how things evolve over time. But that will be one of the key points to sort out. Now, I thought the best way to illustrate this is to try and throw up a case study or an example. And I said earlier, in Australia and in Western Australia, we're not aware of any environmental, land care, agricultural, collective impact projects. But a very good one that our consultant Impact Seed put up at our workshop on Wednesday was this one. So it's from a study or a case project in East Virginia in the US. It's called the Elizabeth River Project. It was started by 4 people sitting around a kitchen table having a cup of tea in the 1990s. So it's been running quite a while. And this was their sort of top line bullet points from their 2022. So they're all of these same points that I had up on the previous slide, and that just goes to show what they've been able to create from 4 people sitting around a kitchen table in 30 odd years. And just lastly, I just wanted to say that as part of this, a bit of a plug for Regen WA and Perth NRM, but this is a big opportunity and a focus for the broader work that's being done at Perth NRM when we start looking at things like natural capital accounting and the community and engagement groups that have been brought together by that group. That's me. I just thought I'd put some of your photos up.